Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review the new documentary, Citizen Ashe, and this is from directors Sam Pollard, who previously did Mr. Soul, Sammy Davis Jr., I've Gotta Be Me, and MLK FBI. So it has quite the resume there in terms of quality documentaries, and you have director Rex Miller, and this focuses on tennis star Arthur Ashe, and focuses on his impact as a tennis star, in terms of racial tensions in America at the time, and even avocation for HIV/AIDS when, unfortunately, he passed way too young of complications to AIDS. And you basically, you get a pretty straightforward, standard kind of documentary here. Especially, which was interesting because, I've seen other Sam Pollard documentaries, and I felt like they had a little bit more of a oomph in terms of something else special to it. But this is a really fine, well-made documentary. It's pretty standard in terms of its storytelling, in terms of, doing the interview setups and going through stuff like that, trying to piece everything together. And, in the end, I feel like this is a straightforward documentary. It's very informative. I learned a lot about Arthur Ashe. Didn't know much about him. You get, each of those different aspects of the tennis life and how he was as a competitor. Then he became kind of a mentor. You hear a lot from Johnny McEnroe, and I really enjoyed that section of the film because you feel that passion and that appreciation from a mentoring perspective of McEnroe looking back on Ashe and what he was able to do for his career. And, you get some deeper moments like Ashe talking about how if his skin was a different color, maybe he would have been more of the Johnny McEnroe who's out there yelling and showing all of his emotions, but knowing that he's a black man, Ashe was very reserved and pulled all that back in. And throughout the film, you get to see some of the positives and negatives of his life. It's not something where it's just they hone in on a lot of the negatives and stuff like that, but they're present, and they do show perspective. Before he got married, he might not have had the most kind of perspective on the other gender and of the sexes, and which was very interesting at the time because they have a part where Billie Jean King and him both won the titles at the same time, and they had such this connection. But around that time, Ashe didn't have the best perspective on women, and you see the impact that his wife made on him, which is really endearing, and you get aspects of that. And this documentary deals with a lot from later end of career kind of things, once he found out that he had AIDS from a blood transfusion because of his heart issues, which just took so much out of Arthur Ashe. But you get to really understand who he was as a person, how his perspective was, and this documentary, even if it's a little mundane, a little too straightforward, still delivers a lot of informational things and challenges you. The ending of this film really challenged me to think about different perspectives and, different kinds of dynamics between different kinds of people, the code switching and stuff like that. I felt like this documentary captured a lot of those kinds of back-end kinds of things, but in general, I feel like this documentary does Arthur Ashe pretty good justice. There's some people that it felt like they're missing and not part of the documentary process, but I feel like you get a lot of perspective on who Ashe was, how he prioritized things, and in the end, where he left this world and what impact he left behind. And there's definitely tennis stars that had that impact from him that are still around and noticeable and recognizable today, and that kind of influence was such a big thing. And the big part of this film of seeing the evolution of his perspective on civil rights movement and getting more involved and being more vocal, and along the way this is a pretty impactful and emotional journey because there could be feelings that come up in terms of like perspectives and how things are going, but I think in the end, this film shows a lot in terms of making those human connections and how important they can be until you realize that you need them and they're not around. So those are my thoughts on Citizen Ash. Let me know what you think, and let's talk some movies. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.